So be more moderate than I think you often feel. Whenever I've written a letter that got published, it's always been something that I dialed back whatever kind of personal angst or frustration I had a great deal. Yes, sir.
Is it better to follow a format of a newspaper article rather than a letter, or is it just write the letter?
What I usually do is I respond to an article in the previous day's newspaper. Okay, I email it to them. Don't send an attachment, because a newspaper editor will not open an attachment. There's too much risk for viruses. So you want to send it in the text email. You want to start out with, my name's so and so. I live in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm writing about this article. Here's my letter. Put a couple paragraph breaks, and then go into your letter, and then end with. And you want to make sure you include contact information, your phone number, because in most cases they're going to call you to make sure you're a real person. And so I've gotten phone calls from all but one of the letters that I published. And if they can't verify you're a person, they will not publish it. So you want to make sure that it's very congenial. That's not making ad hominem attacks saying so-and-so's a socialist, so-and-so's a Nazi, any of those things. You want to say that because you're responding to a previous day's article, you say, I was very interested to read so-and-so's editorial yesterday. I've got to say that I have serious questions about the ideas that they proposed. With the local option gas tax, I very seriously doubt that the opportunity to raise more in local gas taxes is going to lead to more effective transportation system. Say that I'm more convinced that if we lower the amount that we're spending on mass transit here in the area, that we're going to end up having, by cutting those dollars that we're spending in total and become more fiscally responsible, that we're going to have a better economy, we're going to be able to leave more dollars in the pockets of taxpayers, and that we're going to be able to bring more jobs to the Metroplex. So that's going to be a whole lot more likely to get published than to say, Vicki Truitt sponsored a bill proposing this local option gas tax, and just a cover for these socialists that want to bring mass transit and all these buses and trains to the DFW area and screw us out of more transportation dollars. Your position is the same, and that may be exactly what you're thinking. It may even be true. But by communicating in a much more level-headed approach and just asking questions and saying, I wonder or I doubt, those kind of things, that's going to raise questions in the minds of the reader. Because your goal is to come across as a very reasonable person that's speaking on behalf of the Tea Party, and that's, if possible, showing that everything the media tries to say about us is false. So we want to come across as reasonable, we want to communicate our ideas, and we want to bring up questions. Because if somebody reads that very dogmatic article, they're going to come away knowing exactly what your position is, but they're likely to question their own, or they're unlikely to question their own position. If you raise questions and bring up issues that they maybe haven't thought about, so it's not necessarily a socialist issue, it might be a question of bringing more jobs to the Metroplex. Well, do we really need that much more transportation dollars? If you bring it up as those kind of questions, that's going to keep recurring in their mind. Or next time they see one of those text dot signs, they might think, do we really need this project? All right, so, yes, ma'am.
As a journalist and an editor who has picked letters to the editor, it's not an article. You're writing an opinion. You're there to address your concerns, and you should use what facts you have to support your opinion as a short of space as possible, as he said. But you also need to pay attention to your spelling and your grammar.
Yes.
Because as a letter to the editor and as an opinion, the editor cannot make those changes because he may alter what you're saying. And if there's a lot of mistakes, if there's a lot of grammatical mistakes, your letter will not get published.
Well, you answered the question. It really shouldn't be an article format. It really should be kind of a letter.
Yes. It is a letter. It is not. It is an opinion. It is not an article. What has aggravated me to no end is when these newspapers put articles on their front page, and somewhere in there they put an opinion about what's happened instead of just straight news reporting. That opinion belongs on the opinion page. It does not belong in the news. Just as that opinion belongs on the opinion page, your letter to the editor does not belong on the news page.
That's the question I was asking, because I fortunately had enough creative writing that it was dangerous.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you want to keep it short. You want to get straight to the point. You want to support your point as accurately as possible, and you want to make sure that your grammar and your spelling is proper. Do not leave any doubt in the editor's mind of what you are saying, because that editor cannot interpret your opinion, and if there's any question at all, your letter will get set aside. Well,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably get a lot of letters on a specific subject, but you probably only have room to print maybe one letter.
Yeah,
out of a
I mean,
when
I worked for the newspaper, there were a lot of things going on, especially politically at that time, and we would get literally hundreds of letters. You're going to pick the best ones that express the consensus of the letters that are being sent.
So you're having to compete with a whole lot of other people that probably agree with you. That they're probably writing about the same stuff, and so there may be a letter published that says the same thing or a similar thing to you, that the editors thought it was a better letter, or more accurately was reflecting with the consensus. All right, so I want to go ahead and get through my last 3 points, because we're getting right at the end of our time. And then I'm fine to stick around as long as we need to take questions. 1, you got to avoid Stockholm Syndrome. Okay, you want to make sure that if you start getting close to these representatives, this is political Stockholm Syndrome, falling in love with the people your captors. Okay, so here's a scenario. So I'm the liaison with Vicki Truitt's office, or let's say with Kelly Hancock. So I'm the liaison with Kelly Hancock's office. Kelly's got a great conservative voting record. He obviously went different than a lot of his constituents wanted to on the Strauss vote, but he's a very nice guy. I've met him. He's very personable. He's somebody you can sit down and have coffee or beer with and really get to like the guy. My job is not to be best buddies. It's to be a liaison. But what he doesn't want to do, and this is whether or not he's going to disagree with my issues, is he wants to be my friend. He wants there to be a very congenial relationship between us. That's fine. In most ways, it's going to play to our advantage and to my advantage, because if there's that personal relationship, he's more likely to take what I say seriously and to give it some serious thought. What I don't want is for me to get so buddy-buddy with him that I'm not willing to call him on a bad vote. Where I'm not willing to say, no, Kelly, if you do this, we will run a candidate against you next time. It's that serious of a day. So that's what I'm talking about when I say avoid political Stockholm Syndrome, is you can't get so friendly and so tight with these people that you won't call them and do your job.
Believe me, I will not get friendly that friendly with Kelly Hancock. He already knows how I feel.
Well, I tell you, it's easier than it might seem, because I've seen a lot of Tea Partiers do it. Because they start out there on the outside, nobody's been paying attention to them, that's why they want to get in and change things. They finally get on the inside, and important people start giving them notice and returning their phone calls and maybe calling them, and they start thinking, maybe I'm a pretty big deal. And I don't want to accuse any of you guys of that, but I want to warn you against it, because I've seen it happen too many times.
That's exactly what's happening with our reps in Austin.
I agree. Yeah. Because when I was calling Sid Miller about the Strauss vote, I called a bunch of Tea Party leaders in the area. And I called Sid one day, had a long conversation with him about the vote. And then I started calling other people that were Tea Party leaders and saying, this is what Sid's saying, and this is what the truth is, and we need to call him on this and get the word out. And when I called those people, every single one of those leaders agreed with me. But there were 2 of them. I actually got one guy to agree to do a robocall the next day, letting his members know and the local constituents know about the issue. We agreed on the script. He even did the recording and sent it off to me. The next morning, Sid Miller called him and talked with him and talked him out of it. And he called me up and said, Raz, I still agree with you, but I think Sid's a great guy, and I don't want to go against him this much on the record, and so please don't run that call. I was like, Bill, you're killing me. I was like, but we agreed on it. He was like, I know, Raz, I had a good conversation with him. He was taken by political Stockholm Syndrome. He said, I'm loyal to this guy. I've worked to get him elected in the past. I don't want to get on his bad side.
He needs to get replaced.
I agree. So he was not doing his job. Now, thankfully, he came around later on. But at that point, much of the momentum we could have picked up was lost. Next point. Critical to this carrot and stick approach is having a bench of people to run against these guys. So if each one of you are liaisons to these people, we need as many of you guys as there are liaisons as far as candidates that we're grooming for different levels of office. People to run for state house, to run for Congress, to run for city council. And oftentimes these are going to be people that we run for city council and for school board that will end up pushing up through there. Because the great thing about that is that if we start them out at a low level, one, it's very easy to get them in and start getting the name recognition that they need to run for that higher office. Two, you're able to see what they do under pressure. Can they win a campaign? Can they debate well? Can they cast a tough vote? When it comes down to raising the tax, but it's a tax to build a better football stadium. So everybody likes this tax, or everybody likes the idea of the football stadium, but not the tax. Will they stand up and say no to a football stadium or no to a raise for the football coach because it means raising the tax rate on the constituents? Will they make those tough votes? Because you got to know that. That's a problem with a lot of folks that we send to D.C. when they have no track record, is that we don't know if they're actually going to do what they say they will. And frankly, I'd a whole lot rather make somebody start out on the kiddie rides and the lower level stuff than just send them straight up there and tell them to wreak havoc in D.C. with no track record. It's kind of like you got given letting a little kid that's never driven before, giving him the keys to a semi rather than let him ride his dad's lap for a while and learn how to drive. You want to keep control over, make sure they can't do too much damage. Now, that said, at the local level, it's still a very, very important thing. You may not have the multi-billion-dollar votes, but you're still going to have maybe million-dollar votes. You're still going to have significant issues to deal with. Now, as far as or one last thing is, you want to kind of use some journalistic standards when you're talking to these people. There will be conversations you have that are on the record discussions. You will have some conversations that are more on background or deep background, where you're not going to be able to say, so-and-so told me this. There may be a conversation when you have with the rep that he says, you can't be sharing this publicly, but say so-and-so, this rep over here. Let's say you're talking to Hancock or Hancock staff, and you happen to agree with each other on this issue. And so he says, it's like, I'm with you 100%, but I tell you what, most of Vicki Truitt, and up in her neck of the woods, she's not really getting many phone calls. And Vicki Truitt's staff is really the people that are pushing this, and so if you get enough phone calls in there, you might change her mind. So you can't then go and write a blog post that says exactly that, because then you're kind of betraying your source, so to speak. In that case, you're probably more likely to just talk to the liaison for Truitt's office and say, hey, I'm getting word that, and you might be able to tell them, I'm getting word from Hancock's office that Truitt's behind this, and she's giving a whole lot of support there in the Capitol, more than she's letting her district know, and you probably ought to get your folks calling her. You want to give her office a call. So you want to use some serious tact. We don't want to give everything away. We don't want to screw over our sources, but you want to know kind of on what level you're talking. And you may need to ask at some points. Say, so we agree on this, we're working together. Would you prefer that I keep this on deep background and not tell people who this is I'm getting this information from, or use a senior staffer, something like that, to let people know. So you want to be very tactful about the way you approach some of these things. We're out of time. We're 5 minutes over, but I'm fine with taking questions, whether it's up here or just staying around for as long as possible. Julie, what do you think?
Yeah, that's great. And just for those of you that have to leave, I want your signed forms before you go. So
if you have to leave, just get your signed forms to Julie, and I'm fine staying up here and taking questions for as long as you guys need. Yes, sir.
you start passing down.
I'm Johnny Martin.